put it back together, now you gotta look at these plates. They're called right here. So you guys ready? Listen. Your friction shoes, which is your friction. These are column wear plates right here. You got to check these, make sure they're not wore out. Make sure it's got bolts right here. Make sure that if they're loose, you got to cut them out and replace them. You know, they're all different sizes. Being that this is a 9.5 inch gib, these are bigger. Yesterday, the one that Victor, the one we did yesterday, it was what, 5 or 6 inches wide and 9 inches tall. And we replaced them because you could put this up against there like this, and it probably went in there about half an inch maybe, because it was so wore down. So these are good, obviously. And on the S327, which most of you guys know that, is the roof liner. So you always want to feel under here. This one don't have anything. Does that one have a roof liner on it? You gotta have these roof liners on here, man, because it's wearing. Let me see your roller bearing adapter.
See, remember how I was telling you earlier that they didn't have a roof liner?
See, like on these roller bearing adapters, what you're supposed to do when you take it off and you put it back on, you want to rotate it. So you look at the side that's shiny right here. The brakes, the way that when this is all put together, the brakes push out. So if your bolster's here and your wheels are here, it's going to push. That's why it has this rub mark here and rub here. So to prolong this, when you put it back together, it sits like this. You want to turn it, but the shiny part towards the back. That way it'll last a little bit longer. And Victor knows how, right? Victor. Remember? Gauge. I mean, well, he's trying to figure that out. Marco 327.
Hey, Marco, yeah.
I thought you did it too. You did it too, liar. But you feel under here, and more, you got to grind there. You should have a roof liner on here. There's no roof liner on here, so you got two different types. You got the weld on. You got the weld on one, and you got the snap on. If you're gonna have a snap on, remember this, Victor. If you're gonna have on these liners, if you have a snap on, you need to have a snap on over there. You can have a snap on and a weld on, but you got it on the axle has to be the same. The whole truck doesn't have to be the same, but for axle, it has to have. If you got a snap on and you got a weld on over there, and you took this apart, go the easiest route, which is the snap on. But we're out of them, right, Liz? We don't have any. So you take this little. You take this one and you put it up here like this, and see how it's rocking. And it needs to be grinded. And that's the maximum you can charge on that is a half an hour.
You grind that middle piece down?
Yeah, you grind it down flat again. Or you can take this. I think it was this way. And this checks your side right here, just like that.
Gap.
So gap.
Flat?
Mm-hmm. It should be flat on there. And that is S327 is what they call that. So 90% of the time when you guys take these apart, and this, say your roof liner, the weld on one is broke because it seems like a lot of times the weld on one is cracked. Cut it off, grind it, put a snap on, but grind it, and you can charge half an hour here for every corner you do. That's your max. And it's $44.50. You got to put the qualifier, which is FJ side frame. And that's in your Rule 83 in your book. And then it's half an hour. And then in the description, where it says side frame.
The white nickel, 14.
14.
Yeah.
Forged up.
Or so 9, account of repairs.
I always put 14.
For S327.
Oh, I don't know what S327.
That's your grinding your roof liner. That's the rule for that. But it's $44.50 per corner. Yeah. So it's $44.50. Your qualifier is FJ. You can always look it up in Rule 83. Anything, like you can look this up, and that's FF. It's the qualifier for billing. So this is FJ side frame, and then in your description you can click in there, and it's going to say side frame, and you can put comma grind roof liner. We used to have to put grind roof liner per Rule S327, but you can just put grind roof liner. If you don't put that on there, it's not a big deal because now corporate's figured it out. But it's half an hour, remember, no more. can't charge any more than half an hour per corner. So if you had to do all these, that's 2 hours of labor right there. You just build it, and it doesn't take very long. And then plus the time that you get paid, which is I think it's 0.18 for the roof liner itself. That's why I like the snap-on one because it's fast. The weld-on one is the plate. It's got 4 holes in, and they're weld stops, weld plugs basically. If we have them in stock, she'll get them. Clean it all off, real good, grind it, put it on there. Where they just plate? Yeah.
That one's freaking worn out.
So you check that, you check those, trying to look for any cracks. Some of these in the book, if you pull up, if you get your AR book, it'll tell you that there's some of these that come up with a certain number. These are all identification numbers on here. I can pull it up and show you, but right there too, see those little nipples that are sticking off of there? There's 3. If you get down to 1, you're supposed to change. I have to double check in the book because I think that every time that they knock off a knot is when they've remanufactured it, or like reconditioned it, I would say. Because like this, they keep these as cores, and we'll ship them off, and they send them back to whatever manufacturer does these, and they'll go through these. There's a certain kind of shop, like with the bolsters, if we were, what did we say it was yesterday? 214 or something like that? 214 shop? According to the book, it has a number. You get certified to be able to go through these bolsters and recondition. Same with the factory. So if we recondition them, we could take them off and recondition them ourselves and put them back on. So that's why when you see these part numbers, like that one right there, if that was Barber, it'd be 634-1120. And if it has a dash, it'll say dash 3 or dash 0. And if that's a 3, it's reconditioned. If it's 0, it's brand new. You hardly ever see any new ones. Because UP is going to buy reconditioned because UP always wants reconditioned stuff on there. It's kind of like the wheels. UP wants the reconditioned wheels, like the turned wheels. They want them on there because it's cheaper for them than their expense wise instead of putting the new ones. So you check that. Check this.
You check the inside of it.
Where's your? We have the one. You flip this over. This has that little tip right there. You run it up inside there. And you want to make sure it's clearing. It's touching both right there because this will wear out to where it sticks out like that. See what I'm saying? It'd be like that because this groove will get wore down in here. And then the other one is, shit, if I can remember right, I think it's you flip it over. That right there. If that touches this, then this is wore out. Right there. Obviously it's not. And then, of course, back here on the top. Right there. I don't know if it's...
I've never actually chosen that. I want to do this. That one's for the under.
Yeah.
It'll fucking kick you in
I
the
guess it's
balls.
that one too, right? It's not touching, right?
No.
Yeah. It's pretty obvious. You'll see them. It'll be almost smooth right there. You know. So then let's look at your wheel. Go to your wheel. So I'll go. Show me what. Yeah. And also that's another thing. If you're jacking this car and this is blue and it's a BKTY, if this is blue, change it because they're out of date. They want UP wants. The blue ones are out of date. They're basically they're I wouldn't say no good, but they don't want them on a car. And the wine made on that one is 08. It used to be 25 owner's request, but due to billing we changed it to 08. So Aldo can show you what you got to look for on this wheel. If you're inspecting this wheel, what are you going to look for?
The factory, but you can get the date.
You can check your
wheel, and you can
check it.
Yeah.
And remember, any of these tabs missing?
Condemnable.
It's bad wheel. Any of these tabs, if they're broken, there's 2 on each they're stopped, so this thing never loosens due to all the vibration. Turn it. It's nice. It's real smooth. You don't feel it catching, and then move it this way. If it moves this way more than 1/4 of an inch, it's bad. If it's got grease, it ain't that big a deal, but
If it's dripping.
if it's got 3 drops of grease on the ground, it's a a bad bearing. See how you hear that? He's moving it back and forth,
Okay.
but it's not a quarter of an inch, so you still got time left.
The heat.
That one time that we changed out that wheel that
With the heat.
So I was gonna say it blew.
What was it called?
It was overheating. See, one time Aldo pulled one up and he brought it to me and he said, "Hey, this looks blue. Why is it blue?" Apparently it had dried up or something in there. The bearing did, and so when it sits, it locks up. And then so if you think about it, this never turns. This is what turns. If you watch them when they go by, that bearing, it's got all that weight on it. That bearing is sitting like this, the bearing adapter. So this is what turns. Well, what happened was it locked up and it started spinning inside the bearing adapter, inside that seal right there. So then it overheated and it turned blue. And once it got hot enough, it froze up. It loosened up, and that's why there was so much grease here. But then when it cools off, it's gonna lock up again. So if you see one that's blue, and it's real easy to tell, see that's where your bearing sits, right there, your bearing adapter. See that side, how rusty it is? It's in the open to the element. So if you look at it, there's where your bearing sit, right there. Your bearing adapter, that thing right there, sit right there, just like that. See the mark? That one was shining all the way around because it was spinning. It was locked up. But the more it moved in there, it loosened it up. So then it unfroze basically. And then when it cools off, it locks back up again. So watch for that. That's the first thing you see. If it's shiny all the way around, there's something wrong with that bearing, so you gotta check that bearing. And same like you said here, a lot of times I've noticed that you guys will bad order a car over there at the prep for 97, which is this here, the bearing, the backing ring, and it comes over here, it's not loose. Well, kick it, just kick it and make sure, because when they run around like this, they'll kind of get back in that spot where they're tight, but they're still not tight. So just kick it. Don't hit it with a hammer, because you're not trying to make it loose. You just want to see if it's getting loose. You see what I mean? You can hear these. When these trains go by, you'll hear them. You can hear them. Pablo's heard them. We were talking about that yesterday, I think, how you hear them. You'll hear them rattling in there, and you can almost pinpoint it when it goes by, and you'll see it rattling. Now, a lot of times, you don't have to bad order it for that, but if, when, what's his name was here, he was telling us if it's cutting into the rim or the axle, then you...
The one we bad ordered out there in the train yard?
Yeah, it was digging in. It had been on there so long, it was digging into the axle. We have that gauge over there. It's the wheel limit. It looks like a scraper. It's a black one, yeah. And I think it's supposed to be 68 inches. 67.5 to 68.5 right here. It checks your round basically to make sure you're not like that. You want to make sure it's like that. And it's pretty obvious whenever they come in, so that's why we don't put a lot of gauge on them. We'll run that the combo gauge on there. It's 15, 16 on here. And run that gauge. I didn't bring one, but then you want to look for high flange, thin flange, and always look for
thin ribbons.
Thin right here, and then always look for slid spot, slid flat. And if you have chunks missing,
tread buildup.
If you have a chunk missing out of there, I don't have a quarter.
It's a quarter
Big
with
as a
no
quarter?
island.
Yeah, it can have pieces missing. It can have pieces missing all over. But if you can put a quarter in the size of it, then you got to replace it.
But if it has an island, it's not condemnable,
Yeah,
isn't
and
it?
if it's 1/8 deep, you'll see too that the brake shoe wore out on there, and they kept running, and they'll dig in there, man. It'll be a big deep line. Or a deep line on there. Well, they have gauges. We have a gauge. I didn't say I didn't bring it, but you put it in there, and I think it's 1/8? 1/8 deep. And you put that gauge in there, it's just like a needle. It'd be like a little pin like that, and you put it in there, and if it touches, then that's a bad one. And you guys that are bad ordering these, if you have a bad spot, always put your piece of chalk line like that. You know what I mean? Because that way, when it comes over here, we see it. Or if you find one in here that's got a bad spot, run that piece of chalk over it and put it the reason why. Because when it's on that rack, and if you're not here, and somebody wants to ask me, say, hey, why did you condemn that? Well, he told me it had a high flange on it, but I'm putting my gauge on it, I don't see it nowhere. Oh, wait a minute, there's his yellow marks right there, or his chalk mark. They had George still here? The one at the mine? Tell him how you did that at the mine, because we had issues with that deal.
Just whenever I was gauging it, always make sure either when it's not condemnable or when it is, I always just mark it wherever it's at. And well, they said that I didn't mark it right. That's what
No, they said they gauged it. It was one of the coal cars down there at the mine. There's actually a few of them.
Yeah.
And he'd asked me one night, he called me, texted me in the middle of the night and said, I think I got a bad wheel, but I'm not 100% sure. And I said, well, let's let it ride this time. Make sure you make a note of it, catch it next time because we're going to see the train in 2 days, 2 or 3 days. So then the next time he called and said, man, I think that the condition's over. We need to gauge it. We need to gauge it. We need to bad order. I got pictures of it. Yeah, I think I got them somewhere too. So he gauged it and it touched the gauge. It was condemnable. So he writes it on here with a chalk. He writes the line right there. So he's got that to cover him. So now the guy at Union Pacific in Eagle Pass emails everybody and says, harbor guys are just bad ordering wheels and it's kind of unnecessary and it's messing us up. It's slowing up our work down here. So that's what I told Bruce. I said, look, man, I would rather George bad order this wheel to protect us because if he doesn't bad order this wheel, if he's not 100% sure and lets this wheel go and it has a thin flange and it comes up on one of these switches and the switch has a gap and it jumps that switch, there's a derailment, you know. So I would rather answer to that answer to him bad ordering it because he thought it was the guys that go down the mine, or even you guys in here. If you think this wheel's bad order it, you know. We'll double check it, and the AR inspector told us if couplers need this stuff, get 2 other people to give you their opinion. If you got a bad wheel, say you got that coupler right there, it's got a crack on it, then Aldo's doing it, and he can ask you, you think this is a crack? And he goes off of your opinion, and then he goes off of yours. Always get 2 other people. Don't just say, okay, well, it's cracked. Unless it's just really, really obvious. You know, and another one that Allegra does is when you gauge it, and it looks borderline, you put NC, right? Is that what y'all are putting on?
NC and the date and the initials.
Yeah. So that way, if it gets to Mexico or it gets down to Eagle Pass or gets to San Antonio and an inspector sees it, and he sees that, then he sees that you mark it and put NC, he knows at least somebody checked.
Always decide, just put that one in NC, not condemnable. Not condemnable.
Like they'll go.
Where the spot that you gave you.
They'll go like that. And see, or if this wheel's bad, then he'll put right here, and it's what,
61.
61 is a peak. 61?
61 is high impact.
Yeah, the peak. 63, right?
63.
61 is 80 to 90, 65 is 90 to 100. You'll get into that on the real links. But see how he'll have that mark? That's what George did, and that's what protects us whenever somebody comes along and says, well, this wheel is not bad. Dude, you've got to gauge this wheel. I mean, you got to gauge it here. You got to gauge it in 3 different places. You're basically triple checking this wheel to make sure. So if you see that mark on there, Mondo had one the other day, and he goes, man, it says it's got a high flange. I don't see it nowhere. But it was still under the car, and then there was the mark, and Mondo put his gauge on there. Because Mondo pretty much said, what do you think? And I was like, I don't think it is either. But then when we found the mark, we put the gauge on there, and it sure enough was condemnable. So we swapped it because of that. But look for this. You know, look for this right here. Look on the bad order tag. And I mean, just because, like I said before, make sure you guys are inspecting these wheels. I mean, because we swap them, man. You got it in here. If it comes in on this rip track, then it's a bad wheel. Let's swap it. You know, so you got those. You got your bearing. You got your backing ring. You got all these little spots. You guys need to start looking at your book. I think it's wheel 61. It has all your wheel information.
41.
41. 41, 61. Okay.